we have some guests that are here to discuss the dress code. I believe, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Here's our
GICA. Is that what we're looking at?
yeah, I'm trying to find it. Yes, our student dress code, GICA. And then we had put into the packet some other Laconia dress code, the Inter Lakes dress code, Belmont dress code, for the board to review as well. This had come forward from the high school, if I remember correctly, Anthony, and particularly around the second paragraph, caps, hats, and other headgear, I believe. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah, last year, Mr. Gargan, our assistant principal, did some research based on student and staff feedback to see if we'd like to allow students to wear hats in school. Overwhelmingly, students and staff felt that it would be okay to have hats worn in certain aspects of the building, whether it's during class, that's up for discussion, or hallways. And so we have a number of students that are here to support that and just express their opinions in regards to the hat, and then also other portions of the dress code procedure that we follow in our school handbook.
Okay. So, just to, I guess, kind of open, we are members of the school's ethics forum, which is a student-created, student-run group, and we try to champion student leadership, voice, and activism. So part of that is we are here to represent the student body, and we've collected some of their opinions to address the school dress code, specifically hats, and we're here to share them.
So we kind of have like a two-part proposal to kind of bring forth. The first one is like the hat rule that was just mentioned, the fact that there's overwhelmingly support from students and staff. The other part is that we have a holistic dress code review by like a committee, so made up of an administrator, 2 teachers, and 2 students, and then that is brought forth to the board around March or April, so that would be reviewed and next year's dress code.
So, I think the main idea, actually.
Okay. Are we going on to this?
Yeah, you can do that.
Okay.
So our kind of big central kind of collective ideas from the student body centers around the fact that wearing hats is a form of self-expression. It can, you know, allow students to kind of self-discover who they are through how they dress, if they wear a hat, how they carry themselves, but also it's part of like this developing like tolerance and learning, like social learning among the community in the same way, like how you dress and all that kind of stuff. Do you want to chime in about the student?
I'll chime in anytime, sure.
Okay.
Majority of staff feels that the hats are not an issue in the classroom or as a security matter. We spoke with the administration, and certainly the cameras allow for identification of people. The survey, I believe, also revealed there was not support for hoods because that is more concealing. But as far as the hats go, it tends to generate a sense of adversarial relationship. Many of the students do wear them as a form of identification. I have a student in class who, it's almost like a comforting device when he suffers anxiety attacks. If he puts his hat on, he visibly changes and calms down. And I let him do that in class, and it's a violation of the rule. But if that gets him focused and he's able to address whatever the particular need is, so be it. But I would also like to be able to allow other students, that is a comfort factor for them being here, to wear the hats. Right now, it's sort of like, it fosters a broken window syndrome of if the students want to wear hats, and many of them do, and we're constantly reminding them to take the hat off, it gradually starts an erosion of respect for other rules and can foster, other areas of confrontation.
Yeah, and I can speak to that definitely, because I can't tell you how many times that I've seen the sort of respect kind of go down for when a teacher is going to be telling a student to take their hat off in the hallway. I've seen Mr. Sprazzo have a couple times when it may have gone a little too far just because of the student not being super compliant with Mr. Sprazzo's rules, and that's obviously the best thing, and obviously sort of in reality that's a waste of Mr. Sprazzo's time.
So what is that teaching the students when they enter the working world, that their boss says that they can't do something? Are they going to show disrespect to their boss?
I'm not sure if I would use the word disrespect. I think that it would.
But you're telling me that they're losing respect in the administration when the arguments are going on about a hat.
I see where you're coming from, but I also do agree, or I do believe that the workplace and the school are sort of different, in that I believe that in schooling and stuff like that, we're teaching kids right now to be themselves, and they sort of, this wearing hats and other items of clothing is a personal expression of who they are and who they are as a person, and I mean, so.
I'm going to bring it to you from the college level, because I teach at the college level. We do not allow hoods, we do not allow caps in any of our classrooms, especially during testing. It's seen as a form of cheating, and you talk about anxiety. Students tend to get more anxious when there is a test. They're not allowed to wear a hood. In fact, they take their hooded sweatshirts off, and they have to take their hats off. So what happens to the kid who gets comfortable in the classroom in the high school wearing it, and then they get to college and they're not allowed to wear them? What does that teach the kid?
Well, one, I mean, obviously if the student is familiar with the process that you guys are going through right now, that student should have a general understanding that high school and college are pretty different. What we are talking about right now is high school, and what I wanted to bring up too was I'm glad that you brought up the hoods, and Mr. Zuloff also brought up the hoods, is that we aren't for hoods either. When we did the survey, a lot of teachers and students weren't for hoods. It was more about the hats, but we also get that teachers have their own discretion towards that, so that we are also talking about that. Although students can wear hats in the hallways and stuff when they go outside for lunch, and whether the pad or the gym lobby, that's fine for us, and that's what teachers have expressed to themselves as well. But we also get that during class time it's different, in that if a teacher isn't comfortable with the student wearing a hat, then that's perfectly okay. It's all up to them.
So doesn't high school prepare you for college?
And the outside world?
Well, high school is also a period of transition and finding oneself. And part of that is the comfort that goes with it. The students, there's a second one I would also put in there with the anxiety. Their path is not going to be to college. And their path might be in some aspect of the work world. And on many occasions over the last few years, when we've had parent conferences, the parents have come in wearing hats. We don't tell them to take their hats off. And so it's sort of like a dual message being sent here, one of conflict. And the changing nature of the students wanting to identify themselves and feel a degree of comfort here, I think will help foster a better climate. And we can make an exception on days when there are tests and such, but I think for the students to have that expression of identity and comfort would be an important benefit for the school in general.
With all due respect, Mike, because I really respect you as a teacher, the kids in my college environment, these kids are kids who get anxious in the high school.
that end up in the college system that I work in. And they're anxious coming through the door. So I think that they need to learn to manage their anxiety in other ways. Because if they go out and they work, for example, in an environment where they can't wear their hat and they're anxious, what are they going to use then?
Well, but part of the adolescent experience is finding and leveling out. And if we have something that would provide them with a transition to that point, rather than abruptly saying, you know, you have to go from here to here without some sort of a bridge. You know, we expect something different from someone who's going to be 18 or 19 in the world, as opposed to someone who's 14 and 15 in high school.
How do you determine that becomes a tool rather than a crutch?
Well, if it's going to be a crutch, it's a much better crutch than some of the other things people choose to use. And I'm not coming here to claim to answer everything, but I'm looking at the school environment and the students I work with and sharing my concerns.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, and we want you to be aware that we're hearing you.
Yes.
Right? I don't want you guys to think that we're not hearing you. We just also have to think about those other things as well.
When I went to school here, we're allowed, hats were allowed. You wear hats. And I think I turned okay. Maybe I'm not a good example. Maybe it's a different example. But I think I turned out okay. And I think what's, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not been involved in this process, and this is one issue, I'm not going to die on that hill, but I think what they're coming here for is to ask for the rule change, because in any situation, they have to adapt the situation that they're in. And so right now they are adapting, or as best they can, adapting to a situation where they can't wear hats. If they are allowed to wear hats and then they go off to whatever college A or workplace B, they may or may not be allowed to wear hats, and they're going to have to adapt to that situation as well. So I don't think we're setting up the kids for failure if we allow them to wear hats. And even, I can't believe I'm going to say this, because my mantra has always been hate the hood my whole life as an administrator. But the hood, especially for those kids who are fighting with anxiety, that is the safest place for them, is when they put that hood over there. And I know it's not good to see in the classroom, it's not good, but if we're talking about making kids feel safer, that is a tool that they use to protect themselves. But I'm glad you're not doing the hood, because I don't like the hood either. But I think that's what they're here for, is to change the rules so that they can adapt to that.
We allowed hats till about 20 years ago.
I graduated, how many years ago? 30?
Well, we don't have to make you confess.
Yeah, we didn't have hats when I was here.
I did. I said we had hats, because I remember specifically kids who.
Of course, I'm older than you.
What about you?
I think with the rise in anxiety, I don't think anybody can argue that. This is one mechanism that we can do to support some of our students. Not all, some would just like to wear hats. I don't want to say this is all with those students, but it is something that is overwhelmingly supported by students and staff. And so that's why they're here to advocate. They're speaking on behalf of the students. And so I want to make sure that you realize how many students are behind this. This is a very small cross-section of the 500 students that we have that attend here that feel pretty strongly about this.
Do you recall what the percentage was?
I think that Tim had all the data and he's out today, so I'm trying to look and I haven't found it yet.
I thought he brought it to the last.
Yes.
It was high 70s.
Yeah, high 70s.
Everywhere.
Yeah, it was.
For staff, high 70s, and I think high 80s for students. Which I'm surprised it was 100% for students. That's impressive.
Yeah.
And what we could do, probably speaking out of turn, but we could have a student presentation at the board in the next month or two to say, here are the reasons why we would like to change this, and so you can hear directly from them, and then also some staff members. But I'm just throwing that out there. That was done a number of years ago by student council when they wanted to use cell phones in the classes.
I think it needs to stay at the policy committee.
So your goal is to wear hats all the time? Or is there
in the classroom?
not in the classroom?
In the classroom, it can be left up to the teacher. You can kind of treat it like phones. Some teachers allow kids to listen to music, for example, when they take a test. Some teachers don't, and that's completely okay. But so it's kind of like with hats. If teachers find that they're not comfortable with students wearing hats, or kids are treating that privilege disrespectfully, then they have that power to tell students, like, take off your hats. But it should be open to, it shouldn't be an outright rule, we believe. Just like no hats in the school at all.
So, you just brought up another policy that's in violation.
Listening to the music on the cell phone.
So we have students in support services that are allowed access to listen to music.
Like an IEP or 504.
But that's also another part, though, that it's up to the teacher's discretion within their own classroom, where sort of like, without even going into the policy, it's that whatever a teacher feels most comfortable teaching and where the students are most comfortable, that's what they should go for.
And the teachers are working with these students every day for a full trimester, so their judgment is probably much clearer on the issue than any of ours.
Well, we can take it under advisement, what we've said, but I think that we have, given the time and the fact that we have to move this policy to the next.
Well, are there any, you said there were other concerns within the policy that you guys had?
Yeah, so we kind of wanted to do a holistic dress code review, and if we tried to sit here and like talk about all our different like thoughts on it right now, it would never work.
Okay.
Because it'd be way too overwhelming. So what we're kind of proposing is that between now and the start of like third trimester, you know, members of our school community kind of meet together, come up with kind of a like proposal almost, and then in like March or April, toward the beginning of third trimester, kind of bring that forth to you guys and say, hey, this is what we're thinking, you know, would you consider, you know, X, Y, Z, whatever it may be.
Yeah. The only request that I have is that you consider things like safety. For example, high heels and flip-flops, I think, are a huge safety issue in the school.
Absolutely.
There's a, I don't know if you all are familiar with, there's a dress code policy from Oregon that's comes out from the Department of Education, from the state of Oregon. I don't know if you guys have seen that. It's pretty long. It's a 6-page policy on dress code, but they've got a lot of good ideas around dress code that you may want to investigate. And Mrs. Bolda can definitely get you the link for that, or I can send it to you also. That may be some place to start the conversations with students.
Yeah.
So we'll expect something back in, can we say March? That way it gives us 2 months here, if we need 2 months, before we go to the school board, and then we would have it done by the time handbooks would be done, hopefully.
And by the time you graduate.
It's for the future generation.
There you go, that's right. Looking out for the future. I love it.
You guys are all seniors?
I'm a junior.
It's their legacy stamp.
Okay, thank you.
And regarding the request for consideration of the hat policy, will there be a time frame for that?
That's all in the student dress code policy.
So not until the whole thing?
Okay.
We get some work to do.
Yeah. So what do you want to do about this last one?
Thank you.
Crop TV.